It took a lot less time for things to calm down than one would think. With everyone changing forms around the world, some areas of the world actually began to tear themselves apart for a while. The rural tribes in places like Afghanistan and Congo freaked out and began to hunt down those that had changed because they had no idea what the hell was going on. That is, unless the change was very attractive, which in that case they were used for other purposes instead of hunting. In places like the Amish area, those that changed were looked at with extreme suspicion. They didn't change in a way that was scary because they weren't screaming or anything like that. The change was just kind of freaky. Yet they were still hesitant to allow the new elves, minotaurs, and whatever else was created into their communities. Any neighborhood or village that simply paused and realized which characters are dangerous and which ones aren't, at least for a while. Since the new elves, fairies, and whatever else that was human maintained their souls, it was easy to figure out that they could actually be reasoned with. More often than not, what happened is they would be there in complete and total shock. They didn't know what the hell was going on. They would just ask people what's going on, and everyone would kind of stare at them. Also, there was those that were large. Things like minotaurs seemed scary, but they turned out to be very non-violent, calm really. What freaks a lot of folks out about certain creatures is when they start talking, especially things like the goblins. I mean, I experienced that myself. Not the smartest, at least not at first. They're still not fools by any stretch of the imagination. Certain new species turn out to be well beyond reason, however. Whenever there's a male goblin or male goblins, let's just say bad things happen. An entire island of Hawaii had to be cleared out by the military of those little bastards. They all started getting the same look in their eye, as though one of their eye would glow, and they'd say, "Goblins? Where are the goblins?" And they would crush, slash, shoot, do anything they can to end them. If these male goblins got a hold of any females, especially female goblins, that area would be overrun so quick it was just absolutely horrifying. Most of those that ended falling to prey to lycanthropy, also known as werewolves, ended up falling back to their more animalistic ways, at least for a while. Yet there were some that didn't, and they were just calm about the whole thing, trying to just make sense of it. Back in the house, we had a little bit of trouble with the kid that was the new bipedal lizard with wings. I wasn't sure what to call him. Dragonborn, Dragonkin, Beastkin, whatever the hell. I don't know. All I know is his internal demons, along with standard teenage hormones, made him rather angry and difficult to deal with. At least at first. Now that we're in a survival situation, there's a lot of hard work to be done. It all has to be done on hand because fuel is very precious. We don't know if it's going to run out. So, a few days of really hard work seemed to actually calm him down. Kind of hard to cause trouble when you're completely exhausted. I told him a few times that he could actually fly away if he wanted whenever he got pissy, but he wouldn't leave without his mother. Thankfully, she was much more level-headed. Throughout their time there was a few interesting moments too. Things like when Ruby and Hazel accidentally mooned everybody when they dove underneath the sofa trying to play hide and seek. I got a few weird looks at that, and all I could think is, I really need to get them some pants. My little brother checking out the wonderful elf that I had saved, the lizard boy's mom, only to have his wife get a little bit, shall we say, agitated. This prompted me to say an old phrase that reminded her and him, "It doesn't matter where you get your appetite, so long as he eats at home." I made sure everybody heard this, and every adult broke out in laughter, and many of the teenagers just rolled their eyes at that point. My nephew, realizing that his light magic can actually heal, and how his dark magic can actually make somebody fall asleep. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what he can actually do. All things considered, this turned out to be beyond helpful. Yet, as we explain the implications of having such an ability like this, an ability to change reality like this, and what could happen, I could see something. I could see in his eyes that he began to grow up a lot in just a few moments. He realized how deep he was actually in. My older brother and his wife started, staring at each other a lot. They both now have blemish-free skin with athletic swimmers' bodies. And not only that, they have those eyes, those piercing eyes, and that flowing hair of theirs, that blonde hair. I mean, I got to admit, though, I'm a bit jealous seeing that. I mean, seriously, I'm getting old here, and they both look like dolls or something out of a 3D graphic. Lucky bastards. They thought they were being clever, as they would actually sneak off together for a few hours every day. They didn't realize that everybody just had the decency not to say anything, especially when that long, silky hair came back very disheveled and he looked extremely wiped out. Or should I say, drained. My niece that had changed had to get used to her new body. At first, she was very dismayed that her clothes didn't fit anymore, but she did smile very wide as I reminded her that she's now really tall. She was a bit short for her age. Not super short, but now she was tall and looks absolutely nothing like her father at all. I really, really don't like the guy. I did feel bad about one thing, though. All the little kids just kept constantly pulling on that little tail of hers, and I guarantee it had to hurt after a while. My place is out in the boonies, so running into anybody else out here is very limited. I was even surprised about that whole debacle with those guys chasing the mother and son. If anybody actually shows up unannounced around here, they're gonna have a really bad day. There's a certain culture around here where you don't just show up unannounced, and if you do, you make your presence known, or else. Over the course of a few weeks, we all fell into a routine, thankfully. We watched as much content as we could, and it was, amazing how fast things had actually calmed down. It seemed as though the reality of things had just sunk in and people just accepted it. Well, we humans are adaptive. The only hiccup was that most governments wanted to, they wanted all the adjusted personnel to register. This put everybody a little on edge as they're like, what, after that, were they 3/5 of a person? I immediately had to tell the kids to leave the room because I knew the conversation was going to get mean. This all went over about as well as a juicy fart in a packed subway car, and I used my own vehicle, using up what I thought might be the only fuel I had, to show up and voice my non-content over this new law being shoved down our throats. Needless to say, though, I was not alone. And when a sitting representative threatened to order the police to start rounding folks up, well, let's just say he actually knows for sure that he's lucky he was allowed to walk out there, let alone still be breathing, as many, many people were already finger-fucking their pistols underneath their jackets. Through all this, we praised those that kept the basic services running. It was amazing. If we had lost power, well, things would have gotten really bad for everybody really fast. I mean, out here I have a wood stove and a generator, but the generator would only last for about a week, week and a half, and then we'd be out of fuel, and we wouldn't even know what the hell was going on. Things settled down after a while, and the family members all began to leave to return to their own lives. Since everybody was actually in very good health, I just couldn't ask for anything better, and I was grateful. I gave them, of course, a little goodie bag of things to take with them before they left, and I wished them well. My nieces and nephews all gave me hugs, and off they went. Speaking of good health, I did find out why I felt all sorts of weird during the distortion as it went over me. Turns out, around the entire world, everybody's bodies went into some sort of reset. Since in, I guess, that reality, in the said game or something, there's no such thing as the disease. People aren't born with deformities. Mental incapacities when you're born is not a thing. Even dyslexia is not even there anymore. Outside curses, there's no such thing as disease. And everybody is now in full health. And boy, I am so grateful for it. I mean, come on. I had bad ankles, bad knees, even my back was destroyed from all the shit that I deal with. And now, I feel like I'm 19 again. Lynn and her son stayed as they actually had nowhere to go. It turned out that her husband had kicked her out when she and her son had changed. He believed she was a spoiled woman, a temptress, a ghoul from what she turned into. And Ray, his son, looked like a demon. So he kicked them both out instead of just shooting them both. That is when they ran across the group of marauders as they were trying to get, well, anywhere, find a place to just reside. And now, those marauders are currently fertilizing the newest garden. Over the course of a year, almost two, they stayed and helped me continue to improve this place. Good thing, too, as I took some work and that had me gone for a few months at a time. It paid decent, and with the extra money, I could actually get Hazel and Ruby not just more clothes, but a whole wardrobe. I could also improve the house because I had to get everything set just in case something else happened. And with that, I also had a huge weight taken off my shoulders, taking care of some of my debt, at least the last of it, which is awesome. For almost 2 years, we had finally adapted to the new normal. Elves and wizards around the world found work with their new abilities. Dwarves seemed to be the best laborers along with beastmen. Not only that, they just seemed to have this natural crafting skill. I wonder if that's just something that came over from the other side. Even the minotaurs found work, though, in farms all over the places. And things were just looking up. Production was well. Everybody was just kind of doing their thing. Lynn turned out to be an exceptional chef, and she made some of the most delicious meals I've ever had. And because of that, I recommended she put an application for a job as a chef. It took time, but she was able to show off at a high-end restaurant that, is kind of a far end away. And with her skills, though, and her new strictly awesome look, I knew they were going to hire her. The only issue that she had gotten attached to me and the girls. She kind of looked at us as, well, part of family now. I had to tell her that she could always come back whenever she wanted. And that might be sooner than we thought. You see, not long after she left, only a few weeks, I was outside stacking some wood, and the girls I thought were picking strawberries when we felt it. I didn't see it coming this time. It came up behind me, and it came up over me like a wave. In that moment, I could see the distortion wave ripple away from me like a shock wave, pushing its way further in front of me. Once I could get my brain on straight, I turned to the strawberry patch, and I didn't see the girls. Freaking out for a moment, I looked around and saw them sitting on the grass, clearly disoriented. I ran over to them, but it was like I was drunk. My legs didn't want to listen to me, and I fell a few times, but I kept going. I ran up to them. I worried about them because they weren't moving much, but when I got there, I was relieved when I saw that they actually hadn't changed. In fact, they were just, nauseous. It was though they had just got up way too fast and they were just sitting there trying to make sure their brains were still inside their heads. We picked up all the berries and headed inside. I was actually worried for them, so I gave them something to drink so that they could calm down, and thankfully the disorientation was gone by then. They did just basically lock onto me, though. I kind of worried because, well, I didn't know what was going to happen to them. Were they going to revert back? Eventually, our minds were cleared enough that I turned on the computer and I started scanning things. Content was already starting to flow in from whatever the hell happened with the distortion. Some blurry images and videos, and all I could think of seeing that was, oh, great. Now what?